Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I want to do some more Build Your Library Reading Challenge book recommendations. And today I'm going to be recommending books about immigration and the immigrant experience. It's been a little bit since I've done one of these videos, and I've gotten really behind, but it's fine. We're good. It's okay. Today, I'm talking about books about immigration or the immigrant experience. So let's just get right into my recommendations. So the book I used for this prompt in the Build Your Library Reading Challenge is Gold Mountain by Betty G. Yee. I've read this book twice now and I love it so much. This is maybe one of my favorite books. It's so hard to choose favorites, but I really loved this. This was a 5-star read for me. In fact, I think most of the books I'm going to be talking about today were 5-star reads, but this one is about a girl who lives in China with her father. She has a twin brother, and her twin brother dies. And her father is arrested and put in jail for nefarious reasons, and she's trying to help him get back out. And the only way to do that is to have enough money, and her family wants her to get married. She does not want to do that. Her brother was supposed to go to America to work on the Transcontinental Railroad, but because he died, they still have his ticket. And she decides the best option for her to save her father and prevent having to marry somebody that she does not even like is to go to America dressed as her brother and work on the railroad and send back money until they have enough money saved up to go back home and get him out of jail. So that's what she does. And I love stories about girls doing things that are typically male professions, and especially in this time period. Like, she's dressed as a boy, but like, how well can she fit in? How well can she hide who she really is? And she makes some friends along the way and meets some really interesting people. There's a lot of stuff in here about the Chinese who helped to build the Transcontinental Railroad and their stories, and lots of stuff about the sabotage between the different railroad companies. It's just a really fun story and really interesting to read, and I would definitely recommend this. I also want to recommend We Are Not From Here by Jenny Torres Sanchez. This is a young adult story about 3 teenagers who are trying to escape a dangerous situation in Guatemala and get across the border into America. And it's all about the journey they undertake to get there and how dangerous all of it is, and all the stuff they have to get through in order to maybe make it to America and have some sense of safety and freedom. It's a really harrowing story about this journey. They go through a lot. It's very upsetting, very scary in some moments, very sad in some moments, but I definitely think it's worth a read. One of my absolute favorite books about the immigrant experience is The Best We Could Do by T. Boy, and this is a graphic novel memoir. I especially like reading memoirs because you get a very distinct and vivid picture of what one person's family story was like. And this is a story about a family escaping from Vietnam as boat people, as refugees, to get to America in the 70s. And we're listening to the story from the author's perspective. She's a child of this family and what her parents did to get them to safety in America. And it's just a really beautiful story about an average family and what their experience was like being immigrants in America. What was it like to come to America as a small child? What was it like to try to learn how to fit in, and to compare yourself to American kids and what their experiences are like? It's just a really good story. Shanghai Girls by Lisa Yee is a book I read many years ago, but there are scenes from this story that are just seared into my brain forever. I will never be able to unsee or stop thinking about these characters in their lives. We're following 2 sisters who are escaping their home in China just as the Japanese are attacking during World War II. And they managed to get to America as paper wives, which is basically like you are married off to somebody who already has citizenship in America, and they're like looking for a bride. So they're married off into these families, and they just have to learn to adjust. There are some awful things that they go through along the way, but it's also just a really great picture of what it was like to immigrate to America as a Chinese person in that time, and what it was like to come to America during a war and what that experience was like. It's also a story about sisters and their bond and family secrets. It's just a really, really great story. There's also a sequel called Dreams of Joy, which I also read and would recommend, but I think this was a little bit better of a story overall than that book, but that one was also worth a read. I want to recommend When the Angels Left the Old Country. This is by Sasha Lamb, and it's a story about an angel and a demon coming to America from the old country. They're Jewish beings. They're both like mythological creatures, and they're coming to America, and they're meeting different immigrants along the way. It's a really interesting take on an immigrant story. It kind of, when I started it, I was expecting like Good Omens kind of humor, and it's not quite that. There are some like light moments overall, but like it's not a like goofy romp. It's more like just an immigrant story, but it just happens to be that these are mythological creatures and not humans that are kind of trying to pose as human as they immigrate into America. And I think it's a really interesting peek at like the Jewish experience of coming to America and what that would have been like. I want to recommend All My Rage by Saba Tahir. This is a young adult novel, but I think it has a wide appeal with adults as well. This is a story about a few different characters who their families know each other. I can't remember what country they were coming from now off the top of my head, but I want to say Pakistan, but I might be wrong. It's a story about family, about tragedy, about the experience of being othered in America, about like giving up your dreams and coming for the American dream, and what does the American dream look like for different people. It's just a really good story. It's very sad in parts, but definitely worth a read. I love this. Some middle grade I want to recommend. It Ain't So Awful Falafel by Firuza Dumas. This is a story about a girl whose family comes to America from Iran, and what that experience is like. This is set in like the late 70s, early 80s or something like that. So it's like right around the time that there was a lot going on in the news about Iran, and so her experience of coming to America and like having people associate you with very specific things that they've seen on the news and that kind of thing. And it's also very silly and fun. Like she's great at writing a story where like they're talking about very serious things and like dealing with some pretty serious situations, but with a lot of humor. And it's a really fun read. I want to recommend Across So Many Seas by Ruth Behar. This is interesting because it covers a lot of different time periods. So we're following like different people in one family across a lot of time. So we're starting with a family who is being exiled from Spain in 1492, and it's when they exiled the Jews from Spain. And so you follow them as they move to Turkey. And then you jump into the future and you meet the family in Turkey in like the 1900s, I think. And then you jump again, 1923. And then you jump to when they migrated to Cuba in the 1960s. And then you follow in the year 2003, someone who is immigrating from Cuba to America. So like it's one family over a vast swath of time. And so it's a really interesting look at how immigration has changed over a lot of time. And then I have Once Upon an Eid. This is a collection of stories about Eid from a bunch of different Muslim voices. So you have several different authors. This isn't specifically about immigrants and immigration. However, most of the families in this book are representing like the immigrant experience. So I think this would count. Even though it's not specifically about immigration, it's still following a lot of different immigrant families and their experiences as immigrants in America. And then I just wanted to share two books that are on my TBR. I haven't read these, so these are not recommendations. They're just books that I happen to own that would follow the theme. So I have Everything We Never Had by Randy Rebay. This is a multi-generational young adult story about Filipino Americans and like being a Filipino immigrant in America and what that looks like. So I've been wanting to pick this up. I know I think it won the Sybils this past year, and so I bought it because of that, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I feel like it's going to be a book that I really enjoy. And then I also want to recommend something a little bit different, which is The Warmth of Other Suns, The Epic Story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. This is about the Great Migration within America. So like the African Americans who are fleeing the South and moving up north looking for a better experience away from Jim Crow and that sort of thing. So it's immigration within America itself, which I think is a topic that doesn't get as much attention, but is definitely worth reading. And I've had this on my shelf for ages, and I haven't gotten to it. I think I've been a little bit intimidated because it is a chunky book, but I have heard it is very readable and reads relatively quickly, despite being, I don't even know how long this book is, like at least 500 pages. So something I'm hoping to get to sooner than later. Hello, hi, it's me, 15 minutes later, because I forgot to tell you about the book I'm currently reading now, which is literally the inspiration for doing a video about books about immigration. What is wrong with me? But I'm reading right now The Freedom Seeker by Ruchira Gupta, and I'm almost done with it, and it's so good. This is a middle grade book about a girl whose family is in India. And they are an interfaith family, so she has, I think her father is Muslim, her mother is, I think, Hindu and Sikh, or something to that effect. So like they have a lot of different religions in their family, and that is something that is becoming dangerous to be in India. The political landscape in India is becoming dangerous for them, and they decide the best thing they can do is to flee. They try to get visas to immigrate to America, and it doesn't work out because the rules have changed in America for immigration. And so their best course of action is for the father to leave first and illegally enter America, and then for them, the mother and daughter, to follow later and do this. Well, they originally hoped that he could then get them visas once he was in America, but that didn't work out. So then they have to enter illegally as well. So the story is very good, very harrowing. Like I was prepared for that, but also at the same time, I'm like, oh no, I hope this ends well. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm very like anxious about their family and what will happen to them, because what's happening right now is very upsetting. But I think it's a really great look at the experience of people coming to America illegally and what that actually entails and why they might do something like why would they choose to do something so dangerous? Why would it be worth it to them to go through something like that? But also, what is that experience like? And because this is written for a middle grade audience, it's done in a way that, while it doesn't shy away from the absolute horrors that people have to go through, it does tell about it in a way that I think is not, for example, as upsetting as what happens and We Are Not From Here, but also in a way that is still like showing the seriousness of this matter. Like, this is what's happening right now, and this is why we should care about it. So I think it's a really well done book. I'm hoping to finish it later today, but it's excellent, and I would definitely recommend it. It comes out at the beginning of August, I think August 5th. So definitely want to add that to this video before I forgot. I can't believe I didn't remember while I was filming initially, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm doing it now. So I hope you will check it out. So there you go. Here are 11 books that I have recommended to you today about immigration and the immigrant experience. Let me know in the comments if you've already completed this prompt in the Build Your Library Reading Challenge. I'd love to know what you read for a book about immigration. If you have a favorite book you want to recommend below, please do so. I would love to see recommendations. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.